I'm Mindy. I'm an alcoholic. Where's that sign? Okay, there it is. Very time conscious tonight. It is such an honor to talk to you guys about alcoholism. It has colored my entire life, and today I can actually say that I'm so grateful that I'm an alcoholic, because this program has given me a life that I never dreamed I could have, but that I always thought I should have. I was born and raised in San Francisco. My parents are not big drinkers. My grandparents on my mom's side were falling down drunks. They both died of this disease. At a very early age, my 3 uncles all got into AA. So I had a really good feeling about AA, and I could come in here without any shame, because when I was going out, when I was 16 years old, drinking a lot on the weekends, my mom once said to me, you know, Mindy, the alcoholic gene is hereditary, and we have it in our family. You might have it. And I was like, okay, fine, whatever, bye. And, but she planted a seed, and this disease is so progressive and progressed so quickly in my life that I'm really glad she said that to me on the way out to an underground club one night. My first drink, I remember sipping my dad's beer when he wasn't looking. My dad would drink beer when he would watch football games. And I thought it just tasted disgusting. I couldn't imagine why he drank it. And he never drank more than 2. I would watch, and he never drank more than 2. He did not have the gene. My mom would get giddy on 1 glass of wine, and I thought she seemed like such a fool, and I thought wine tasted disgusting. I do remember in the 6th grade making a screwdriver and bringing it in my thermos to school. We had a bottle of vodka in the house. I am sure that that bottle had been there for 20 years. It was probably a wedding present. My parents didn't touch hard alcohol at all. It tasted so disgusting. But I did bring a screwdriver in my thermos, and I thought I was really cool, but I think I put so much orange juice in it, because I kept tasting it, and it was disgusting, so I put a lot of orange juice in it. But that was a good, I had good intentions there to get drunk at school, and I don't think it really happened. When I was a teenager, my best friend and I went to a lot of underground clubs, and we just, at 15, we had really good fake IDs, and we drank gin and tonics like they were water. We didn't count drinks. We pounded drinks. We just drank as many as possible, and we blacked out every single weekend. I don't know how we got home on so many nights. God covered our asses so many times. We got in really dangerous situations. We were with people we had no business being with, and we would just laugh it off the next day. And I shudder to think how I'm going to treat my teenage daughters when I have them, because they're going to get locked up. I did realize, at about 17, I think I realized that I could not drink hard alcohol and know how I would end up in a few hours. Because I could have like a 3rd gin and tonic and be fine. And my best friend would say, do you want another one? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, let's have another one. And I would have a 4th or a 5th. I actually talked to her today, and we couldn't remember how many drinks we were actually having. And it would lay me out. I'd black out. I would like wake up and I'm puking in some bathroom, or I'm with some guy doing something I have no business doing, and I'm like, what's your name? And I would come in and out of blackouts. I had no idea what I would do when I drank hard alcohol. When I was in college, I kind of just stuck with beer and wine, and that did it, boy. I got hammered. And but I didn't really drink hard alcohol. That scared me. When I drank very intermittent, mostly on the weekends, did not feel I had a problem, because the beer and wine would make, you know, I didn't behave myself. What did I do? Then I started counting drinks, is what I did. And I had a really bad breakup when I was about 25. And this man and I drank a lot together. And drank, I don't know, I thought it was pretty normal. We'd have a bottle or 2 a night. And we broke up. I thought he was the love of my life to this point. I was devastated. It was like, I can either get into therapy or I can drink. And so I drank, because it was cheaper. And about a year later, he called me to make amends to me. And I was like, oh my God, this is great, wow. And he copped to everything. I broke up with him because he cheated on me. We were engaged at the time, and he made amends to me. It was the most, every person deserves to have the love of their life make amends to them. It was the most beautiful, healing thing I have ever experienced. And the way he wrapped up his amends to me was, he was like, oh, by the way, you're an alcoholic. And I said, you tell your sponsor you told me that. I don't think you're supposed to say that in Alcoholics Anonymous. And he's like, well, honey, you are. You really need to look at it. And I was like, click. That was just, don't do that. If you're making amends to someone, don't wrap it up by saying, by the way, you're an alcoholic. It's not nice. It's not nice. So I drank a lot during that period. I didn't drink during the week. If I work in casting, and I learned that I cannot drink and work the next day. I'm a mess. My hangovers, and I really struggled with this because I'm Irish. And it's in our genes. We're supposed to be able to drink. I could not drink and work. And so I only drank on the weekends. And it got to the point where, you know, Thursday, well, it's okay. Friday's going to be a slow day. And on one of those Fridays, I was driving to work. I was very, very hungover. I made a horrible driving mistake. Horrible. And I almost got in an accident. It was absolutely my fault. And I thought to myself, I may not have any alcohol in my system, but I know that this is an alcohol-related thing, if I had hit this guy. And I was driving down the 10, and I was just my head was pounding. I felt like shit. And I said, you know what? I've got to do something about my drinking. I have to stop drinking. And I heard a woman's voice, and she said, good girl. And I almost swerved off the 10. I almost caused more accidents. And I said, who is that? And I saw my grandmother's face. And this is a woman who died before I was born. And this is a woman who died of this disease. And I thought to myself, God, it's not just me. This is my dead grandmother cares that I have a problem with alcohol. So I did, you know, I went to the library to read about it, because I didn't want to go to an AA meeting yet, because I wasn't really sure if I was an alcoholic. I had a problem with alcohol. I went to the library, and there was this book. I just grabbed a book. I went to the psychology section. There was a book. In the title, it was something about happiness. It was written by a woman, and she was a PhD. That is all I remember about this book. I opened it up to a random page, and it said, if you have a problem with alcohol, just go to AA and handle it. And I just was like, oh my God. Slammed it shut, put it back. I have been back to the library, and then I went to an AA meeting the next day. I have gone back to the library probably 20 times looking for that book. That book does not exist. I have done everything to find this book. It doesn't exist. God created a book for me to get me to an AA meeting. I went to an AA meeting, did not raise my hand. I was too freaked out. I was doing research. And I got hit on at that meeting. I went every day for 7 days. I got hit on every day for 7 days. And we're talking, I had mascara coming down my face, mucus, everything. I was a wreck because I realized in that 7 days, I discovered that I was an alcoholic. And this was like, oh my God, this was so frightening. And I felt so vulnerable. And keep coming back, it works if you work it. Hey! And I got hit on. And it was really, it hurt. It really hurt a lot. And I thought, okay, if that's what AA is about, I can't do that. I can go get this in a bar. And a woman said to me, you know, you might want to go to a women's meeting. And I was like, yeah, whatever. She gave me the address, and I forgot about it. I stayed dry for 2 months. And I will add that I did not raise my hand as a newcomer. These guys didn't know I was a newcomer. And I did say to one of the men, I'm like, you know, I have 4 days. And he said, I don't care. And I'm like, I do. And he's like, no, come on, let's go out afterwards. And I'm like, honey, I wouldn't do you after a six-pack. And he was like, oh, okay. He was in treatment at St. John's. It wasn't a very nice thing for me to say. But he probably had more sobriety than I did. So I stayed dry for 62 days, went up to San Francisco, and had a couple drinks. I was like, I do it for 2 months, it's fine. This program doesn't work if you don't work it. I didn't want to get a sponsor. I looked at the steps. I'm like, I don't get how you do it. Oh, well, whatever. And just, and you know, did 7 meetings. And and what happened? I have to look at notes. I made notes because I'm afraid I'm going to ramble. I went back to drinking on the weekends, definite controlled drinking. I was very tense and went back to drinking on the weekends. I loved red wine. That was my thing. Fetzer Cabernet, loved it. And Trader Joe's bargained. And it stopped working, which for a cheap Irish girl like me really pissed me off. I could drink a bottle of wine and just get cranky. I didn't get drunk. It was so annoying to me. That went on for almost a year, and a friend of mine mentioned Belvedere vodka, and he said it was just great, it was the best. I went out to dinner with some friends and ordered a Belvedere Madras. I'm sorry if you can taste it in your mouth, it's not that great, trust me. And I had 2 of them, and my toes started tingling. And I went, thank you, God. Finally, there is something out there that can get me drunk. And I had 2 of them, and I immediately drove home because I was didn't want to drive drunk, which I was doing right then. But I didn't want to be around people while I was drinking. I drank in the privacy of my own home so that if I started slurring my words or if I started acting stupid, I didn't have any witnesses because I just wanted my bottle of wine, the pack of cigarettes, and Law and Order and NYPD Blue reruns, and that was good. That was a good life. I was 29 years old. That worked for me. And so I got my Belvedere vodka. Finally, God had given me an alcohol that I could get drunk on. And I got to tell you, I had it. I went and bought it. First, I went to Lucky's. It was $30. I wasn't working at the time, and I was like, oh, this is too expensive. I can't get that. So I swung by Trader Joe's. They didn't have it. They have it now. They didn't have it then, and it was $27. So I went back to Lucky and bought it. And I never got that toe tingling thing ever again. I never got it. It was this elusive buzz. It was so frustrating not being able to get drunk. And something in me said, your body is not going to give you this anymore. Your body is so overloaded with alcohol, it's never going to give you that buzz. So I went to a holistic doctor because I was having other troubles. And she tested me for all these food allergies. And just, you know, because I'm cocky, I brought in beer and wine. And she tested me, and she's like, you're allergic to these. Well, that sucked. I could not believe we had confirmation. And so I kept drinking them. Because, you know, I stopped all the other stuff. Stopped dairy, stopped wheat. That's what she wanted me to do. Anyway. So my sister had a baby, and she didn't tell me. She didn't tell my family at all. She just had this baby. That was the most crushing. It was a pain I've never felt before. It made the breakup with my boyfriend look like a walk in the park. It was so utterly painful. And again, it was like therapy, drinking, drink. You got the Belvedere vodka now. So I drank. And I drank every day for 3 months. And that was my biggest stint. That was really, it was every day. And at the end of the 3 months, I had gone, it was a Saturday night, I'd gone to see the worst musical ever put up in the history of man. It drove me to drink, it really did. I'd had 2 drinks before, and that didn't even make it any better. And then my business partner and I just bitched about it the whole way home, had another drink at his house. I'm such an alcoholic, I brought the Belvedere vodka with me to his house, because you just have to try this vodka, it's so good. So I'm carrying it with me. And so I had another one at his house. I went home. I had another one. It was almost midnight, and something said, and I was, no toe tingling, but I kind of had a good buzz going, and I knew I could go to sleep. And something in my head said, make another one. Have another one. And the logical part of my brain is going, okay, it's almost midnight. You want to go to church tomorrow. You're going to be a mess. Don't have another one. And I got up and I made another one, and I made it really strong, and I stood there in my kitchen at the counter and I drank it. And I've got red flags all over the place. And that's when I was like, okay, you can't control this anymore. You can't control this. And I woke up the next morning I have never been in so much pain in my life that I inflicted upon myself. And I just hated I had so many mornings like that, that I would lay there with my toenails hurting. Everything hurt. This body was not made for alcohol. It really wasn't. As Irish as I am, I can't take alcohol. And so many mornings I'd lay there and say, you did this to yourself. You poisoned yourself. You poisoned yourself, and this is what you get. Your body is revolting against you. But I didn't know how to stop. Even not getting drunk. I drank it every single night, not getting drunk. So I was a grumpy girl. I really was. And so I went to church, really hungover, sat in the most fabulous row of all my girlfriends who were all hungover. Everyone had partied really hard the night before. I don't know what it was. And I was like, did you guys see that musical? No, okay, because it was really bad. And I thank God for the actress who invited me to that, because I think that helped me get sober. And a guy came and sang a song, and he said, Spirit's calling me deeper than I've ever been before. And I was like, I'm in so much pain. I had this vision of God and a bottle of Belvedere or Fetzer Cabernet, take your pick, and me. And I could not get close to God because the booze was between us. And I kind of felt like God was saying, honey, you got to pick one. You can run your course with booze, or you can run your course with me. You take your pick. And I was like, God, I want you, I don't want the booze, but I can't stop. I could not stop. And then the minister gets up there, and he gives a sermon for me, saying, you know that thing in your life that's giving you so much grief and so much pain? Whatever it is, God will help you. You cannot do it on your own. God will help you. And I just sat there, completely stupefied. And this voice said, go back to AA. Go to a women's meeting. Go back. You cannot do this on your own. You can't. And went to an AA meeting the next day. And I have experienced a love and a community and a fellowship. This fellowship, I mean, I've been in churches, I've been in ashrams, I've never seen anything like this. I've never experienced anything like this. And I remember when I had about 3 months of sobriety, every night when I pray, I thank God for sending me to Alcoholics Anonymous, every night. And I was praying to him, and I was like crying. I was just like, this is the greatest gift you ever gave me to let me be an alcoholic. This is great. And my toes started tingling. And I'm like, you rock, God, you are so amazing. Chuck C. said, what I was looking for in the bottle, I found here. And that is my story. It really is. And when I had 4 months of sobriety for my 30th birthday, I went out to, had to do something really big for my 30th. And I went out to Al Green's church in Memphis. And I don't know how many of you know Al Green. He was an R&B singer, and he's just amazing. And, you know, I sat there in the first pew. We were my best friend and I, my drinking buddy from teenage years, she and I sat in the first pew. We are the only white people there. I have never been so embraced by a community in my life. And he sang. His voice is divine, still. And the way he opened his sermon, he said, how many of you were gripped by drugs and you could not save yourself, but God saved you? And people are screaming amen and hallelujah. And then he said, how many of you were drowning in the bottle and you couldn't save yourself, but God saved you? And I turned to my best friend. I'm like, did you tell him? Did you tell him I was sober? It was phenomenal. I cried for like 3 hours. And then we had supper with the congregation. He invited us back to his office, and we sat and talked with him for 30 minutes about God. And it was the most amazing thing, and I got to hold hands and pray with this guy. That would not have happened if I wasn't sober. I love, people talk about how we anesthetized ourselves so much, and now we get to feel our feelings all the way through. I've had little bouts of the darkness, and they're little now. When I was drinking, they went on forever. They're little now. And the times of joy that I have, I'm feeling them fully. And that is phenomenal. It is phenomenal. I anesthetized myself out of so many feelings, and I was missing the boat. The bad times aren't that bad, and the good times are great. And as long as I can embrace them, they just keep going on. Because I'm still tripping on the Al Green thing, and that just happened in December. And you know, I didn't speak to my sister for a year. And I was really committed to holding on to that resentment, very, very committed. And about a month ago, I went to my niece's one-year birthday up in Seattle, and my sister and I cleaned it up. We had, like, she stepped up to the plate, I stepped up to the plate, and it's something I completely owe this to Alcoholics Anonymous. It has kept our family together. And what's that last one? Oh, I think I did that one. I have 5 more minutes? Let's think of another story. This is the life that God intended me to have. And that smacks me in my face every single day. I wasted a lot of time being hungover and thinking about the next drink. I thought about the next drink as soon as I woke up. And thought about the drinks from before that weren't working. And from the night before. And I have so much gratitude to my 3 uncles who walked this path before me, who are absolutely tickled pink that I'm in this fellowship. They're very proud of me. All of their children are raging alcoholics, and they have not come in here yet. They have not hit their bottom. And it's this wild legacy in my family that has killed so many people, and finally we're in a generation that Alcoholics Anonymous is so available. Like, I cannot figure out why my grandparents did not somehow find this, but it's not, I can't trip on it too hard because they're so psyched that we found it. Even though they're dead, they've let me know. And it was a really hard thing for my parents to accept. They were like, my dad was the best one. I told my dad when I had 3 months, and he said, "Booze? You got a problem with booze?" I said, "Yeah, Dad." He said, "What were you drinking, kid?" And he doesn't need to know about the vodka. The vodka will really freak him out. And I said, "Wine?" And he said, "Dry or sweet?" And I said, "I don't know, what's Cabernet?" "What is it?" "That's a dry wine." And he said, "You know, the winos, they drink sweet wine." "Okay. I think it gets them more drunk." I'm like, "Dad, I'm sorry I didn't have that information." "That's good to know. That's good to know." My mother sobbed when I told her I was an alcoholic. She said, "I gave you this gene." I'm like, "Mom, it's okay. You gave me other good genes, but this is a good gene to have." They cannot, bless their hearts, they cannot understand how sweet this is. And my mom, of course, is like, "Do you have to keep going to meetings? I mean, can you have a glass of champagne at your wedding?" No. That would be a sad, I do not want to have a glass of champagne at my wedding. I really, really don't, because I know, you know, I see billboards, the alcohol billboards, and I look up and I'm like, ew, like I can taste it in my mouth. It still happens. I taste it in my mouth, and I know what comes after. I get cranky, I get stupid, I don't know. There's nothing appealing to me about alcohol anymore, because it has kicked my ass every time I drank it. Kicked my ass. This fellowship and this way of life, the steps are so God-given. God gave us these steps. They are phenomenal. They are absolutely phenomenal. If you're a newcomer, get a sponsor. It is all about getting a sponsor and working the steps. I grab stuff up from when I was a kid that I have not looked at, and you know what? Got to look at it. If you're on your 4-step, it is not as bad as everybody says. I mean, it can be if you embrace it, but don't embrace it. It's just this crap that you've got inside of you. You know what? Write it down, tell your sponsor, kaboom. It's, my 4-step was really, really enlightening to me. And I let it go, and she gave me a hug, and she had really good coffee and donuts, and we just smoked cigarettes all afternoon. It was really nice. It was really, really nice. And I believe it is 8 o'clock. Thank you so much for letting me talk to you tonight.